Best 4K dash camera. Viofo A139 Pro versus the Blackvue DR970X versus the Thinkware U1000. We're going to show you daytime footage, nighttime footage, how it picks up license plates. We're going to go over all the specs of these, the pros and cons. I'm Ben from Safe Drive Solutions, your dash cam specialists. Let's go. All video recordings that are made and shown in this are Blackvue is on setting highest extreme and has HDR on, which is high dynamic range. It is automatically defaulted to high dynamic range on, so you cannot turn it on or off. The Thinkware U1000, there is no way to change settings between higher or lower bitrate, so it is automatically set to default settings. The Viofo A139 Pro is set for maximum bitrate and HDR on. So all video recordings are set and actually tested this way throughout the entire video, and I just want to be fully transparent on that. Also, no one has paid me for any review or anything on this. To be honest with you, we actually took our own company money and bought the Blackvue DR970X, which we don't really sell, but we wanted to show it because customers keep asking us all the time, how does it compare to the Thinkware U1000 and the Viofo A139 Pro that we're always selling every single day to our clients? Dashcam resolution. The Blackvue DR970X uses a 4K 8 megapixel CMOS image sensor. I want to make sure to note it is not a Sony sensor. The rear 1080p is a Sony Starvis image sensor. The Thinkware U1000 uses a front 4K 8 megapixel Sony Starvis image sensor and a rear 2K 1440p Sony Starvis image sensor. The A139 Pro uses a 4K front Sony Starvis 2 IMX678 8 megapixel sensor and a rear Sony Starvis 2 megapixel Sony Starvis sensor. Now, when it comes to dashcam resolution, the A139 Pro and Thinkware U1000 both have the capability to take it from a 4K down to a 2K 1440p at 60 frames per second, which means it's going to take 60 pictures per second as opposed to 4K at 30 frames per second. The Blackvue DR970X does not have this capability or setting changes available to it. Okay, so it's very important that you know the difference. The other thing is bitrate. Blackvue has different things where you can actually change between extreme and all the way down to normal, which will allow you for longer record settings, as well as the A139 Pro has maximum all the way down to normal, which gives you different settings. Now, why does this matter? Well, what it does is, let's say you have 20 hours of record time on an SD card, obviously, and if you have it on maximum, you may only get like 10 hours because you're putting it on such a high bit rate that it's taking more information in as it's recording. So it just depends on how techy you are and what you're looking for. Viewing angle. The DR970X from Blackvue has a front 155 degree wide viewing angle and a rear 139 degree viewing angle. The Viofo A139 Pro has a front 140 degree and a rear 170 degree. The Thinkware U1000 uses a front 150 degree and a rear 156 degree. High dynamic range. The Thinkware U1000 does not have HDR, but it does have WDR, which is wide dynamic range. Wide dynamic range processes images to ensure clear recordings in bright and dark light. This allows the dashcam to combine multiple images at different levels of brightness to create one superior image. The Viofo A139 Pro and DR970X have high dynamic range, also known as HDR. It enables the camera to deliver video with near perfect exposure in varying light situations. It can enhance video quality, especially when it comes to the issue of front license plates being overexposed at night. The DR970X is always on preset by Blackvue, while the A139 Pro allows you to toggle the HDR on or off. Wi-Fi capability. All 3 dash cameras have dual band Wi-Fi, which is 2 GHz and 5 GHz. Now, why does this matter? Well, that means all 3 units in the 5 GHz Wi-Fi mode will allow you to download videos 3 to 4 times quicker than the 2 GHz setting. They also have a Wi-Fi app for Android and iOS full support. SD card capacity. The Thinkware U1000 will only support up to 128 GB micro SD card. The Blackvue will support up to a 256 GB micro SD card. The Viofo recently have updated some information on their website saying they will support up to a 512 GB micro SD card. Now, we frequently use up to a 256, and we've tested that and it's worked fine. We have yet to test a 512 GB on our end. However, if you are going to pursue a 512, I would recommend utilizing a Viofo micro SD card. GPS information. The Viofo A139 Pro has speed and location data built into the dock, and you can actually go through the settings and choose to have GPS information only, or speed location only, or both, or you can completely turn it off. When you go to Thinkware, with the GPS information, you will get red light and speed camera notifications, which you can turn on or off, as well as GPS speed and location, which you can decide to turn completely off, the GPS speed and location all in one. Blackvue also has the GPS information built directly into it. And if you can turn that on or off, which completely disable the location and GPS speed all in one. Parking mode. The A139 Pro has 3 settings: auto event detection, time-lapse, and low bitrate recording. Auto event detection will automatically record when detecting moving objects or impact while the car is parked. Time-lapse, video is recorded at a low frame per second, from 1, 2, 3, 5, or 10 frames per second. Low bitrate recording, you can lower resolution to save space while recording. The Blackvue DR970X has 2 options: motion detection and impact in one, which means if there's any motion nearby or an impact, it will record those incidents, and time-lapse mode, which will record at 1 frame per second. The Thinkware U1000 has 4 options. One is time-lapse, which means it'll record at 2 frames per second. Motion detection, which means if there's any impacts or motion detected, it will actually record into that file folder. Energy saving mode. Energy saving mode means it will actually record 1 second after impact. So there's an impact, and 1 second after impact, it'll actually wake up, start recording, and typically save a 20-second video. And then there's the advanced parking mode, which is energy saving mode with the radar module. There is an extra part needed, the TWA-RDR, in order to enable this option. But the main thing with this is the radar module will go out the front windshield, and if it sees a vehicle coming towards you, if there's no impact to the vehicle, it'll actually delete the recording and go back to sleep. Now, if there is an impact, then what it will do is it will actually save and write that recording onto your SD card and basically save it. Okay, but now it'll actually get the impact coming up to the vehicle and record the before and after, right? And it draws a lot less current than in motion detection mode. Parking mode cable and low battery protection. Blackvue has a standard parking mode cable with power, ground, and ignition that needs to be hooked up. And you can select the low battery protection digitally through the Wi-Fi app. Thinkware is the exact same way with the standard power, ground, ignition, and you go right into the app and you can select the set voltage for your low battery protection digitally through the Wi-Fi app. The Viofo is standard hookup again, power grounded ignition. However, you must use the selector switch on the cable to determine your low battery protection, which gives you the option of 11.8, 12, 12.2, or 12.4 volts. Parking recording duration. Now what this is you can actually set the amount of time your parking mode lasts. And so the big thing is we already talked about low battery protection. So low battery protection trumps everything. So if you set it for 12 volts and it drops down to 11.9 volts 10 minutes after you get out of the vehicle, the dash camera will shut off to protect the battery of the car. However, let's say you have a power cell, or let's say you have some big batteries, or you want to actually set it up to just record up to a certain period of time. The Blackvue will allow you to set from 1 hour to 48 hours in 1 hour increments. So basically, if you find that you only want to be protected when you go to a restaurant, maybe you only spend an hour or 2 hours at a restaurant, maybe you only want to set it for a 2-hour parking mode, which you'll probably get more of a consistent 2-hour parking mode, right? Viofo gives you 30 minutes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 24, and 48 hour options. And Thinkware gives you 3, 6, 12, 24, 48, 72 hours, right? You can also bypass all of these and not have the parking record duration, but this does give you an option. Like I said, I always recommend having low battery protection on, because the last thing you want to do is completely kill your battery for just recording overnight. Loop recording and video length recording. So the Blackvue has the option of 1-minute video recordings. Viofo has flexible options of 1, 2, 3, 5, or 10-minute video recordings. And Thinkware has the options of a 1-minute video recordings. Keep in mind, on the Thinkware unit, if there is any impacts or collisions, it will actually save a separate 20-second video for those impacts in a separate folder, while the Viofo will actually lock the entire video. File list organization. Viofo has all files, locked files, and parking files. Now, I will say this, if you do have a parking incident, and it will actually put it into the locked files for when you are trying to retrieve it via the mobile app. If you are looking at it on a desktop, which there is no desktop software for Viofo, basically you're putting the micro SD card in, they're all MP4 file format, and you can actually view them on the computer. And if you are looking for your locked files or your manual recording / emergency recording files, you actually have to scroll down all the way to the bottom of the folder and look for a folder that says RO. You click on that, and that will be all the locked files, and your saved files are going to be directly in there. Now with Thinkware, there's multiple different files. There's continuous incident, motion detection, parking incident, and manual recording in the mobile app. Continuous is all your files while you're driving. Continuous incident is your impacts while driving. Motion detection is anytime there's motion detected and you have that turned on in parking mode, that's where those files will go. Parking incident means there was an impact while parked, and those videos will show up in there. Manual recording means that you've hit the manual recording button on the unit, and that's where those files will go. Okay, now we look at like the desktop app, and you actually can look through the desktop viewer and select these file folders and go through it. If you are just viewing the SD card on the computer, a lot of people get confused with this because they're labeled differently. And a lot of times you have to look under like EVT or event recording file folder to actually find where your incidents are. Now with Blackvue, their file list organization on the mobile app is normal, event, parking, and manual recording. And you can actually select these on or off depending on what you're looking for. However, when you're taking the SD card out and just viewing it on the computer raw with no desktop app, I find this is by far one of the most disorganized that I've ever used. I actually didn't like it at all. It did have the timestamps, which was nice, but I was trying to find where my manual recording and incidents were, and I found it very hard to decode and frustrating. However, if you use the desktop viewer, which is like, I have a Mac, so I actually use the Mac app viewer on the computer, I actually found that was very organized and it was very nice to use. Voice recording / audio recording. All the units have the capability and you could turn it on or off. Some people are really worried about their privacy and are worried that all these are always going to be recording audio, but you do have the option to turn it on or off. Now, if you want a better quality microphone, the Viofo A139 Pro is the only one out of these three that does offer you an upgrade to a professional lavalier microphone kit. Cloud capability. The Viofo A139 Pro has no cloud services. The Thinkware U1000 has cloud, but in my opinion, it really does nothing. The Blackvue DR970X has cloud and is it's pretty awesome. I actually have a great video explaining this. If you want to watch it here, it's probably about 18-20 minutes long, and it goes in depth of all the capabilities of what cloud can do for you on the Blackvue cameras. Plus, on this one here, the Blackvue DR970X, you can actually add on an LTE module so you have cellular data hooked up directly to it, or you can actually buy the DR970X LTE unit, which will have a SIM card portion built in, and all you have to do is buy the SIM card or use the Blackvue SIM card that comes with it, depending on the package that you look at purchasing. Either way, with their cloud, you will have the capability of GPS tracking, depending on the plan that you do. You will have access to videos that are going to automatically upload, and you can view events like aggressive driving, aggressive cornering. There's all sorts of really cool stuff that you can do with cloud. So if this is something you're looking for, or you're looking for something for your fleet, this is kind of where Blackvue does shine, is in their cloud services. Pros and cons. Viofo A139 Pro has the Sony Starvis 2 image sensor, high dynamic range, night vision. It supports up to a 512 gigabyte micro SD card. A small cable from the front to the rear makes it a little bit easier to run. And it's the best dash camera for picking up license plates I've tested. Cons. 1080p rear camera. And the file organization could be just a little bit better. Blackvue DR970X. Pros. High dynamic range. Supports up to a 256 gigabyte micro SD card. Cloud, and more cloud. It has cellular capability and a small cable also from the front to the rear. Cons. It is not using a Sony Starvis image sensor or the Starvis 2 sensor at all. You cannot turn the high dynamic range on or off. It's lacking on license plate pickup and a 1080p rear camera. The Thinkware U1000 Pros, 2K rear camera. Energy saving mode is very low current. It's actually about 1/40th of the current draw of the other two units. Red light and speed camera notifications. It uses Sony Starvis image sensors on the front and back. Cons. Max 128 gigabyte micro SD card. No high dynamic range, and some of my customers say it talks too much. My final thoughts are this. All the 4K dash cameras are still better than getting like a 1080p dash camera. So it's going to give you still a higher chance of getting license plates. They all have their positives or negatives. And when you're looking at the A139 Pro probably has the best video quality out of all of them. The Thinkware U1000 has by far the best parking mode options in terms of current draw. The Blackvue DR970X has amazing cloud services. So really, you need to figure out what is your priority? What problem are you trying to solve? And realistically, if you're just worried about while driving around, the A139 Pro is probably going to be the best option for you. If you're worried about parking mode and having long periods of record time, you probably are going to want to have the Thinkware U1000, right? If you're worried about managing a fleet or having capabilities of being able to log in your car remotely, you may want to look at the DR970X and getting like a SIM card or utilizing their cloud services. So all of them have their positives and negatives. You just have to figure out what's right for you to solve, the challenge that you have. So either way, I think they're all great units. I mean, I know personally what I would choose. I'm more worried about while driving around, so I'm going to use the A139 Pro personally for my own vehicle at this point in time. But there are some new exciting dash cameras coming out that I'm not going to talk about yet, but I'm hoping to have my hands on them in the coming weeks. If you do like our videos, I do encourage you, please support us. Obviously we do run a business. We do sell dash cameras. So Feel free to check us out, safedrivesolutions.com. And if you do have questions, definitely leave them in the comments down below. I appreciate all your support. By the time this video comes out, we probably finally hit 1,000 subscribers, which is pretty awesome. And we work hard for that, and we appreciate all the support that we have gotten. Anyways, thanks again. Cheers.